In the world's most remote jungle, there's an island where no cars exist. There are no paved roads or street lights. The people cook over open fires and carry bows and arrows. And the government doesn't dare interfere. It is nestled between India, Indonesia, and Thailand, just off the coast of Myanmar. For over 60,000 years, they've built their homes among the trees and hunted wild pigs and deer. And if you wanted to find them, you have to look up because they build their shelters in the tops of tall trees, far from the reach of predators and prying eyes. Some were simply scared away by the tribe's aggression. An American Christian missionary named John Cho decided to sneak onto the island and bring the tribe the word of God. He paid fishermen to drop him off nearby, and then he snuck onto the shore. He approached the tribe, pulled out a Bible, and started reading. That was a mistake. His new friends weren't interested in his religion, and neither were his friends on the boat. Soon, John was dead, killed by arrows. The fishermen watched helplessly as he took his final breaths on the beach, and after that, they fled. So they grew up fierce, strong, and wary of outsiders. And it seems like their instincts were correct. Throughout history, various groups have tried to conquer North Sentinel, but no one has succeeded. The Sentinelese live on. The story of John Chow shocked the world. If they were exposed to a virus or bacteria, they could be wiped out entirely. And they have no idea that the outside world is watching. Because of their size, their location, and their lifestyle, but in total, nearly 2,000 Sentinelese are thought to have died. And that's when India stepped in. They've cleared ships and planes from the skies above North Sentinel. They could have walked across the land bridge that connected the Indian subcontinent to Southeast Asia, but as the ice melted, the waters rose and the bridge disappeared. That meant that North Sentinel became an island. And over the years, the Sentinelese evolved into a new species, and they carry bows and arrows wherever they go. Here, the Sentinelese live a life free from technology, war, and famine. They are happy, healthy, and peaceful. The Sentinelese make their weapons and jewelry out of bamboo. They build canoes out of tree trunks, and they harvest plants to make medicine. Thankfully, there's a way to simplify your life and save money. They live in families of about 50 people, and everyone works together to survive. They share food, defend each other, and care for their young. It's a perfect system. They fired arrows at the relief workers, and soon it became clear that there was nothing more that could be done. The outside world backed away again, and the Sentinelese rebuilt their homes. They hunt for food, build their homes, and fight for their freedom. And yet they've managed to preserve their culture for thousands of years. But how did they become so fierce? What was life really like on North Sentinel, and how did they survive for so long? They monitor the waters from afar, and they send helicopters to scare away any potential intruders. Today, we still don't know much about the Sentinelese, but we do know that they face new challenges. They are believed to be related to the Edda and the Anj, two other indigenous tribes in India. But their exact origins remain a mystery. All we know is that they've spent tens of thousands of years adapting to the tropical climate. They've grown accustomed to the heat, humidity, and the rain, and they've learned to use their environment to their advantage. In 2004, a tsunami hit the shores of North Sentinel. It devastated the landscape and destroyed many of their homes. And coconuts grow on nearly every beach. The Sentinelese can easily find enough to eat. But it's not always easy. Life on North Sentinel is a constant struggle. Natural disasters are common, storms strike without warning, and dangerous animals prowl the jungle. Relief workers wanted to rush to the island with food and medicine, but the Sentinelese fought them off. They refused aid, and they had good reason. Within weeks, the death toll rose. But instead of waiting around, the Sentinelese packed up and moved. Many wondered why he risked his life to deliver the Bible, and many wondered why the fishermen didn't save him. But they couldn't risk upsetting the tribe. John was the only casualty that year, but he wasn't the last. Others learned the hard way that North Sentinel was not a place for visitors. They don't want to be saved, they just want to be left alone. And so the governments agreed to stay away. In 2006, two Indian fishermen got too close and never made it home. Boats aren't allowed near the shores and drones fly at their own risk. But how did it come to this? How do the Sentinelese live so far from the modern world? And how do they defend their islands so fiercely? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss a video. Their boat capsized and they washed up on the shore. Soon after, two bodies were found on the beach, but it wasn't the fishermen. First, it's totally covered in jungle. Second, it's home to one of the world's rarest animals, the dugong, and third, the population is unknown. Experts believe that fewer than 50 Sentinelese remain alive, and they are incredibly elusive. Even today, no one knows exactly how many people live there, and no one knows how they defend their land. But historians believe they may have been shipwrecked sailors or castaways. Over the years, they evolved into a new race of humans. They developed their own language, their own customs, and their own way of life. But it's not just bears that they're trying to hide from. In all, the Andaman Islands are home to some of the world's most stunning beaches and pristine wilderness, filled with rare animals and dense jungles. It is a nature lover's dream, but one of these islands is unlike the others, North Sentinel Island. The modern world fades away, and here are the Sentinelese, one of the last Stone Age tribes in the world. This is the last place on Earth where time still stops. It's North Sentinel Island. It's part of a cluster of islands called the Andaman Islands, located in the Indian Ocean. The Sentinelese are an uncontacted tribe who live in voluntary isolation from the rest of humanity. Then in the early 19th century, they were discovered. But it didn't take long for the newcomers to learn that this paradise had its own protectors. When Captain James Brooke first reached the shores of North Sentinel in 1880, he saw men with dark skins carrying bows and arrows, shouting at the strangers and firing arrows towards their ships. The ships quickly left the area, and since then, the Sentinelese have proven that they mean business. Over the next few decades, the outside world would try again and again to reach the island, but each attempt ended in failure. Then in 2018, things got even more serious, and so the outside world learned a valuable lesson about North Sentinel. The people living there don't want visitors. They don't want gifts. Before we move on, make sure to leave a like. But they also face dangers that other humans don't. They suffer typhoons, earthquakes, disease, and predators. In the 1970s, the Indian Navy tried to invade, but they were beaten back by arrows. Scientists say the Sentinelese have no immunity to common diseases, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. They fled into the jungle, deeper than anyone had ever gone before. They stayed hidden for 6 months. They sent a team to survey the damage, and they offered supplies to the survivors. But once again, the Sentinelese attacked. But today, they face another threat: climate change. Rising sea levels, extreme weather, dwindling resources. Each day is a struggle for survival. As we speak, the Sentinelese are struggling to survive. But they will never give up. So what will happen to North Sentinel? Will the Sentinelese be left alone forever? Or will the outside world eventually win? Time will tell. While the Sentinelese live a simple life, our modern world is complex and chaotic. Alright, now let's get back to the video. The Sentinelese live a life that we can barely imagine. Anthropologists believe that the Sentinelese may have arrived in India 60,000 years ago. The forests of North Sentinel are filled with food. Wild pigs and deer roam freely. Fish swim in the shallow waters. They live in tree houses, safe from predators and deadly insects. Their society is small but tightly knit. North Sentinel is the last place on Earth where time stands still. Now watch what's happening in Afghanistan, or check out what's happening in Iran.